No, I've been here since August. I took pictures, and I got a lot of them. Got a petition up. Asked VDOT to do these studies. VDOT did a speed study and a volume count study with the, you've seen them all your life, the rope in the road. They're just a little more high-tech now than they used to be. But so we counted the speed and we counted the amount of traffic. And back in '94, when the road was surface treated, the traffic count was 60. Today, or one day, it was 385 cars and pickups and 17 tractor-trailer trucks. 17. And we're talking about now, the board has to understand, we're only talking about a 1.5 mile stretch of road here. But there's so much traffic increase. There was 10 or 11 residences in '94 when they did that. And now there's 53. 53. So there's 5 times more residences and there's 6 to 7 times more traffic than there was when it was surface treated. So, and the pictures don't lie, and neither do the facts. That Levi said something about a 6-year plan. There's no way in that we can wait 6 years to. And the other thing I wanted to say was that Mr. Price has been pretty good to work with me to do these things for us. And we've gathered all these facts for you. And he also told me that the money was, and Levi's not real sure about that, but it don't matter to me because we're still not going to wait 6 years to fix this road because somebody's going to get hurt or it's never going to get any better. There's no way with that much surface treatment on it and 17 trucks a day, it ain't no way. So anyway, I figured some estimates of the taxes that's been paid for the 91 people that's signed this petition. All this information's in here, and the pictures are in here too, so you can see what kind of condition it's in. So when I come back here next month, I'd like to have an answer between now and then, because we're not going to be satisfied with being on a 6-year plan. We can't, because the road's going to be back to gravel by then. So anyway, he's assured me that there was money available in the secondary road construction fund, and the board just needed to let him use it. That's what Mr. Price told me. So I'm going to give that list to her, and I'd like for her to see that all of you get a copy of it. Like
All right.
Everything that I've
debate
done,
Mr. Price
all
over.
in there.
Yeah, I think so.
Thank you.
Next day meeting.
I think we need to talk to him.
Yeah.
Sir, if we might, I think some of it, if it's all right with the board, we'll go ahead and scan in so they can have it available, not just some papers that might get lost. I know there's some things that may not scan well, but that way it'll be easier for them to access that, if
Okay.
that's all right with you.
I just want them to look at it. I want
Yeah.
them all to review it and see what all the facts are.
Thank you, sir. All right. All right, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Mr. Chairman, the next person on the list is Kirsten Vest from Locust Grove.
I can talk loud enough. Y'all can hear me without that being in my face. Kirsten Vest, Locust Grove District. I wasn't going to say anything, but I'd like to say something along the same lines for Mr. Morrison and his comment. The board actually did have an opportunity earlier this year, back in the summer, I believe. And Ms. Bechtold brought up that we could possibly, as a county, give a rebate to the citizens. I think you mentioned something about 30% maybe. There were some percentages thrown around. And at that time, there was no action taken, I believe, and I think the plan was to talk to the county attorney, and then we've been coming to these meetings. I didn't hear anything after that about what was decided, but there are other counties all around us and cities and localities that gave rebates, Bedford County, Roanoke City, you've said, I think Montgomery or Pulaski, several others gave rebates. Even if you couldn't give a 30% rebate, because we're operating on a very thin margin this year for our budget, I get that, because we have $33 million of debt. I get that, but please try to do something. You can revisit this. You can say, listen, you know, we really need, our citizens are hurting. What can we do to help them? Even if it's not 30%, 20%, something would be helpful, especially to the senior citizens and people who maybe only have one income in a household or something, but they still need their vehicle to drive back and forth to work. So just asking that you might please consider that. I know that you can. I know it's hard. I know it's a tight budget year, but please look at it and see if there isn't something that you can do and not wait until next budget year to do it, because that whole process takes a long time, and it'd be next summer before you could give any relief. We need relief now. So please consider that. Thank you.
Thank you. And then, Mr. Chair, the final person that had signed up is Dan Vest from, I assume, Locust Grove. Sorry.
That's all right.
This kind of adds on, Dan West, Locust Grove District, excuse me. This kind of adds on, and it's and I sum it up as a lack of focus. And it's how the data's presented too. My wife just talked about $33 million in debt the county is. It's not really $33 million. If we don't pay on the principal and we go by this amortized matrices here, it's actually 41.3 million. So we're paying for 2023, $984,000, 900, almost $1 million in interest next year on that $33 million. 22 million of that stuff is school debt. And permanent county debt's 10 million. Plus the EDA has a $3.5 million line of credit. When the school went into this project, it was estimated around 15 million to do everything they wanted. Now it's 22. And I know for a fact that the county had $2.5 million for a shell building that was taken away from the EDA and given to the school. So there's another $24 million that project has cost the county already. And with all the other federal funding, what is the total cost of that project? I can tell you right now, a school superintendent is not a building superintendent. And we need to be worried about what wants and needs are in this county. And that's the reason, my belief, that we didn't get a tax rebate. The county is so strapped for cash right now that we can't afford it. And if you look at the disbursements, I don't think the county realizes that we're in a hard shape. There are some things in there that need to be cut. We all have to make do in our households with the budget. We don't have the luxury of going out and asking our bosses for extra money. We can't do that. But you guys can go and get in our back pocket anytime you want. It's not right. Thank you very much.
Mr. Chair, I believe that was the last name on the list.
Okay. With that, I'll declare the public comment period over. Next is our board time. Anyone have anything?
Yeah, well, let's just, while we're all sitting here real quick, talk about this Jerry Lane up here on VDOT, so. Because some of y'all have been here a lot longer than I have. But what I spoke to Dr. Millsaps about from Mr. Vest was that the secondary road construction fund, my understanding that's dealing with the 6-year plan. Is that right?
Yeah.
So,
My understanding is that when you go from gravel to.
No, it's board time, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
yeah, I mean, I want to talk about the issue while you're here, but,
Okay, I'm sorry, go ahead.
but I want to make sure we're all under the same impression of what we're getting here. So, Mr. Price probably needs to come to one of these meetings so he can explain it. If he's.
Definitely want Mr. Price here.
Yeah, if he's telling Mr. Vest that we hold the authority and it's coming out of secondary road and all we have to do is just simply sign something and Jerry Lane is paved, that's not the same impression that we have up here from Mr. Price.
Okay, yeah.
But I mean, if Mr. Price needs to be at the meeting to tell us, because I think we got two different opinions about this.
Yep.
Is that correct?
Yes,
You tell me what you know, yeah.
and ever since I've been on this board, the 6-year road plan's actually, at one point in time, it was actually a 6-year, I'm sorry. At one point in time, it was actually a 6-year road plan. In reality, the way the funding has changed, our 6-year road plan is actually a 12-year
Right.
road plan. And what little money, new construction money we are getting is being eat up and used in increased cost and stuff that's already in the plan. So if Mr. Price knows of any money anywhere that's available, it's news to me. And I've been sitting here off and on for 20 years. Now, he is right in one thing, we do approve the 6-year road plan.
Right.
And if, many of the projects that's on it have been on it for many years. Now, this board does have the authority to juggle those projects or take one off and put one on. But at one point, from where I come from, one point, I understand this gentleman's problem, these people's problem. But people have been on that list for several years that have problems as well. Do they get disregarded and a new one put in? We've always tried to go down that list. And I've enjoyed the luxury of most of the roads in my district are paved. So
Right.
I've always tried to make sure any of that new money was dispersed against the 4 other districts, because I know you have a lot more roads that haven't been and a lot more problems. But as far as bumping stuff, about the only way we ever took anything off the list is if somebody refused right away and then knocked the project. We pretty much stuck to that list.
So,
And I don't know what, I wish Mr. Price would come and talk to us before he'd start telling this stuff.
Well, I think that would help.
Well, I
Could you
also-
reach out to him and see if he'll be at the
Yeah,
next board meeting?
Yeah, ask David
Yeah,
to bring him. I would love that,
so,
because I've got some other questions for him that he promised that didn't turn out.
so does everybody know that Jerry Lane is not a gravel road, right? Everybody knows that. Jerry Lane has already been surface treated.
Right.
So it should be in a maintenance,
Instead of new construction.
correct. And so that's where I'm coming from. And just hearing that 17 tractor trailers in a day,
That's right.
I mean, that, and I understand the business that's out there, and that's wonderful, but that automatically elevates it a little bit higher because of the extra weight that is traveling on Jerry Lane, and that's what's causing a lot of the wear and tear on that road that is inordinately more than normally a car would have on it. And they're bringing in a lot of heavy stuff. So I agree with Mr. Price coming.
Yeah, I'm not against you, Mr. Vest, we're trying to help you. But when you got Mr. Price saying it needs to be this way, and our hands are sort of tied here, from our perspective, it's back to the 6-year road plan, and we know you can't wait
Well,
6
it would-
years. and-
Unless you're upgrading the road, the 6-year road plan doesn't come
That-
into the picture.
That was what I
It's
was
already
trying
surface
to.
treated.
Correct.
If it's already surface treated, I mean, and we need to check, because if it was done under rural rustic at the time.
Right,
The rural rustic program rules state to get it in under that rural rustic, it's done within the existing right of way.
Right.
It's graded, it's ditched, it's paved, and as far as any expansion is wiped away.
right.
In other words, you can't expand it or
Yeah, so it wouldn't
improve
be-
outside
right,
of
right.
what it is. See, we ran into that on several roads that
Mm-hmm.
we did. And once it go, if it was paved and done under the rural rustic program, then the only thing it can be done is resurfaced.
Right,
And we're
which is what.
we're
which is
not
what-
we're not engineers. I mean, Mr. Price needs to tell us his opinion if it needs to have just maintenance or it needs to be totally resurfaced.
Right. And then we gotta find out which plan, does anybody recall when that road was brought up
Mr.
from gravel to?
Miss-
It's all in that information.
Yeah, it's in the
Oh, it's in
packet.
that information, okay.
Everything's in
Okay.
Yep.
Then we can review that, that'll give us a timeline, we can ask VDOT to review it and say, was it done under rural rustic or was it done under the normal 6-year road plan?
Right.
If it was done under rural rustic, then whatever the right of way is and whatever it is what it is, and all you can do is just pave and basically pave it what's in place. Now, if there's something there that it looks like it needs expanded and further construction, and it wasn't under rural rustic, then that could be, you could use the 6-year road plan money for that.
I think that the,
That's my understanding from all of this.
right, but I
Well,
think,
that's why I wanted to talk about it.
but I think what we're dealing with here is a road that has not had continued maintenance due to the level of traffic increase that has happened on it. And that's VDOT's responsibility to maintain our roads.
Well, I've said it before. I think they're more in violation of the agreements going all the way back to 1933
Correct.
than they ever have been.
That's right.
And I also stand, unfortunately, the money goes where the population is.
Yeah.
Right.
And right now, sometime in 2012, 2013, it was bad before, but somewhere in there, 2013, 14, or 15, that's when they recalculated everything and it just poof.
Yep.
Well, I agree. I think to get all on the same page, we need Mr. Price to come and speak on the agenda.
We need
Put
him
on
and
the agenda.
Him and David here at
Yep.
the same time.
Yeah.
If I might,
But,
Mr. Chair, you will see in your inbox, I've sent an email to Mr. Clark and copied
Thank you.
you all,
Thank you.
inviting him to the next meeting to discuss this issue.
Alrighty.
And we see, we've got a lot of roads that need attention that aren't getting it. It's not David's fault, it's not Christopher's fault.
No.
It's not the local fault.
Right.
And it's,
Yep. All right. Would have been sent.
as far as, it's up to the board. If you wanna put something in the 6-year road plan and take something out, that can be done by a vote of this board. It's just usually not done that way.
But it's not
yes.
6-year road plan.
Well, I know
material.
If it's an expansion's
Right.
what's needed,
Right.
that would be 6-year road plan.
But
But
I
if
don't-
it's general maintenance, then no, that's under their maintenance,
Right.
And they're the
Right.
ones that would make that determination.
Correct.
yes,
And that's what I'd like for Mr. Price to explain
And
to us.
Mr. Clark.
Yeah.
yeah, because. the
Which one it
construction
needs.
money-
Yeah.
Yep.
Now, we do have the authority, and I've been trying to do this for years. We do have the authority that with that new money coming in, we could set up and say, we're doing countywide projects. And I know y'all heard this before, but
Right.
one more time. We can pick a road like Joe and I could pick one between us. Grade the shoulders and clean the ditches and that kind of stuff.
Right.
But that's about as far as they'll let you go with that money, as far as
Right.
toward maintenance. Because it is earmarked for new construction, but you could do a countywide plan that way, and each of us could pick one. But, as far as paving, it wouldn't, or
Gotcha.
repaving, it wouldn't. And they don't even wanna admit that. But we actually did that one year.
Anyone else?
I guess I'll just end it with, I guess you can tell my frustration with VDOT's just as bad as the citizens.
Yeah.
Yeah, 'cause like on that 6-year plan, there was a road on that when I came on 11 years ago, that was on there before I ever got here. And they finally got started doing it last year, and they, for some reason, they've quit now. I don't know what.
Probably
how
running
that
into a
is.
right-of-way problem.
Well, was one of the biggest problems, but they got all that straightened out. So I don't know what the problem is
Yeah.
now, but,
I apologize, I didn't mean to get on the soapbox. but
well, no.
It is VDOT, so.
Yeah,
Well, 40, 50 years ago, the board had a little more say on the roads, but
Yep.
they sort of took that away from us.
I get
Alrighty.
one more follow-up on,
Yeah.
back to the personal property stuff. Those localities that's doing rebates, do you know if that's like relief or actually like, here's cash back rebate? Nah, it's just among us here. Yeah.
I believe there are checks being written.
yeah.
We needed to do the relief rate to reduce the bill going out.
Right.
Back when I discussed that.
But they're actually sending rebate
Yes.
checks back.
So people need to come up with the money and pay it first before we can give any money back. But yeah, it's a check.
Yeah.
Which if this board wants to go that route, I'm fine, but again, some of my questions that I've had all along is still out there. How much was actually billed? We usually get a 95 or 96% payment on that. The tax increase the gentleman was talking about, I finally did figure out, we're getting approximately $10,000 per penny. We did a 20-cent tax increase, and the year we did that was to balance with the real estate. That came into about $200,000. So whatever that 95% number minus the 2,000, we compare that to the budget, and that'll tell us exactly how much we have that, or what we can use as a percentage to rebate. But until I get those answers, I can't, because if we overdo it, we're gonna put the county in a bind, and I don't want us to go back where we were. I won't go back where we were. But simply put, we need to know exactly how much was billed under that, then figure out what that 95% number is, take that 200 off of it, and that'll tell us how much we have to rebate, if the board wants to rebate. And that's fine, but those questions have to be answered before I would vote for a rebate.
We don't have the luxury that a lot of counties have got of a lot of industry to build their tax base.
Right.
You know,
And I'm gonna say this too, and some of them are gonna shoot me, but I'm not gonna name names. Some of the surrounding jurisdictions have said, yes, it was the politically right thing to do, to go ahead and do what they did, but they know that they're gonna have to put it back next year and possibly increase it, that they're just delaying their county's people being upset a year.
Right.
I'm not
I've
gonna-
heard the same thing.
Yeah.
I don't play political games, I look at it financially. And if I get the answers to those numbers, then we can talk, or to those questions. If we get those numbers, those accurate numbers, then we've got something to talk about, but, you know, well, maybe we got 400,000, maybe we got, maybes and possiblies. I can't,
Yeah.
I just
Yeah.
don't feel like I can sit here and make a decision based on those two words. I want to know some
Right.
actual.
Yeah.
And I didn't mean to get on the pedestal again, but I.
No, that answered my question about the rebate versus the relief
Yep.
for other counties.
I don't have a problem doing a rebate, but I gotta know what those numbers are.
I will just put it out there again, when I voted no in April of 2021, I understand what Mr. Booth said, and at the time, I heard it and I understood it, but I just thought that as we were possibly coming out of a pandemic, I didn't know that I wanted to increase that on that much of a hike in the personal property tax. I traditionally am a very fiscal conservative person up here on this board. You know, I would have liked that school building to come in a little lower. In retrospect, I've said before, the radio system that we had to spend money on could have, been paid out of that, but we are where we are, and, you know, I'm ready to sharpen my pencil come January and, see where we can cut, but we're pretty lean, and, you know, it's, an area that we can only give as much money. We can't tell the school board what to do with it. We can only give them their money that they want, so.
Well, you go ahead.
go ahead.
Well, I was just gonna say, I keep hearing all these numbers thrown around. In 2004, the county agreed to a $12 million school project. We agreed to a 14.5. Now, I don't know how much that 12 million's been paid down, but even if it hasn't been, it has been some. That's where you're getting your 22 million something for the schools, school projects. And, yes, we have, approximately 10 million, but, you know, you got fire trucks, you got trash trucks, you got other vehicles that involved in those numbers, and some construction. I'll just say this, and I like to fell out of my chair when we were visiting one county and they mentioned that they were doing a $540 million bond.
Yeah.
That was just one bond.
Yeah.
And that county's not that much bigger than us.
Crazy.
Yeah, I mean, it's easy to throw numbers around, but if you look at it, it's not all numbers that this board has done. It's past, but our debt service goes back many years.
Right.
And it goes over many projects. And as far as the school construction, we held public meetings, the schools held public meetings, there was information and whatever. I can tell you right now, I think out of my district, I had maybe 3 people that fussed and said not do it, if that many.
And when it started out, it was slated to come in at $25 million.
Yep.
Right, and we,
And me and Justin fought that thing hard until they finally got it down to $14.5 million. Okay, so we did our due diligence as far as holding our feet to the fire. You know, there was a lot of stuff that was just plain pork,
Yep.
you know.
well, and now, in fairness to them, some of it was us. We had talked about them moving the school board offices
That's
to
one
this
thing we
new
fought.
facility.
Mhm.
And they included that price in it. When we saw what the price was, we withdrew that.
Yep.
We said, no, can't do that. So, you know, I mean, hindsight's 20/20. I understand what you're saying, Linda. At the time, we were trying, and Levi's predecessor is the one that brought it up. That, you know, we're always going to the real estate. And that we have people in this county that the only thing they pay is personal property. And so we balanced it out that year. No, none of us knew what was coming. But as I said before, and I'll hush up, you can put tape over my mouth. Until I get some actual real numbers, I'm not gonna.
I am fiscally conservative also, and I welcome anybody to contact me by email and tell me where you want to see the budget cut and how you expect that to happen. Because we went through it with a fine tooth comb and cut everywhere we could. And I know that we need to make even more cuts next year that are going to be very hard. There are some things we can't cut that just is not up to us. And I think there is some misconception about the budget money and our ability to manage it, what we can and cannot do.
Well, we actually sent it back to the department heads the other year, and Lisa can verify this. It came out, and we said, no, we still can't make the budget balance.
Right.
Can y'all cut more? And the department heads, every one of them found,
Yep.
you know, a little here and there, and a little bit mounts up, you know, and we appreciate what they do.
I imagine next budget's going to be a lot of that also. Nickel and dime
Yeah.
decreases, but it does add up.
They're talking about a rail strike now.
Yeah, I know.
With diesel already
Yeah.
out the wazoo, then,
All bets are off.
yeah.
Yeah.
Because the other day I took my farm truck, it's a power stroke diesel, had the oil changed, $234 for oil change and a fuel filter. Then I went down the street, I had a half tank of fuel, and I thought, well, I'll top it off, $136 to fill it up. So, you know, and then cattle prices dropped about 30, 40 cents. So, you know,
It all works out.
Right?
yeah.
It all
So,
balances in the
yeah.
red.
Yeah.
And I still got a truck sitting out here, I need to get oil change in, but, you know,
Take the oil from the other truck, just so I can put them
I
through.
can't, one's gas and one's diesel, so, I said, you know, but, anybody got anything else? And the taxes too hit me
Right.
super hard, you
Sold
know,
my
so.
truck. After that rate,
So,
rate went up to 21.
but if nobody's got anything else, we'll move on down to our next one, and that's the elderly and disability relief, and that may help Rick out. You know, he mentioned that we need to get some elderly relief. We already been working on that, and so we're trying to get something for that too. So,
All right, Mr. Chairman. So on the next item, the elderly and disabled relief. As you know, you have several items in your packet that are related to this, primarily an emergency ordinance and some other information from Mr. Durbin. And we had him on the phone here for probably far too much of this earlier conversation. And then Kim said, well, should we just have him come back? And now we've misplaced her, so do we know where she went? So let me give her just a minute to go find her, and we'll move on with that.
It's down at the very bottom.
oh, I didn't stroll down far enough. Yeah. All right, thank you.
No, that's the penalty and interest for the one above it. There it is, emergency.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, that's it.
Okay, I'll put your cursor over there.
All right, so we're gonna be just a little technologically challenged here.
So just give me, I'll put them up here.
Okay, we're gonna try, for those of you who are listening in, we have, if I might, Mr. Chair, Mr. Durbin, our county attorney, on the line to discuss this next issue, and he's offered some thoughts based on some of the questions that the board members raised earlier when the commissioner was here. And so with that, I might just turn it over to Mr. Durbin, if that's all right. Thank you.
Thank you, Linda. Can everyone hear me all right?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Great. What you have before you are two proposed emergency ordinances, and they accomplish two separate functions. One is to increase the income limitations for elderly and disabled individuals from $25,000 to $50,000. That's the total gross combined income limits. And then we've also requested an increase of the net worth figure from $125,000 to $175,000. The effect of this will be to increase the pool of eligible folks who are eligible for this tax exemption. I know that there was some desire on the part of the board to tie this exemption eligibility to federal poverty standards. And in reviewing the statute, I think there is room to do that. That's something that we would need to have a more lengthy discussion, I think, on which published standards we're actually wanting to use, and are we intending to index them to just have them annually be referenced, or start with the current poverty standard as published by, and there are several agencies that you might refer to. So I want to just kind of clarify that and then discuss how we wish to administer that going forward, whether that's going to be just incorporated by reference, the standards as they're published every year. We'd also need to consider if they're not published for some year, or if they're called something different. If the federal government changes the name of the standard from, the last 10 years it's been called one thing and now it's going to be called, the needy family threshold or something else, that may cause a complexity in referring to the federal poverty standards. So for that reason, I thought the most expedient thing to have something before you that you can adopt for today's purposes would be to just use the numbers that the board has previously prescribed, and then moving forward, we can certainly take that alternative approach of indexing to the poverty standards. One thing that, as you review the proposed ordinance, one thing I would call your attention to is in the section 4 that's being amended. It does provide that it increases the total gross combined income from $45,000 to $50,000, but it does provide, and this is based on what the existing county ordinance does, it does provide that the gross combined income shall include all income from all sources of the owners and the owner's relatives living in the dwelling for which exemption is claimed, provided that the first $6,000 of the income of such relative, other than the spouse of the owners, shall not be included in such total. I've highlighted that just for your consideration. I don't know if there was some desire to increase that threshold as well, given it's been a few years since you amended this, and inflation may have made $6,000 not the number you want. So wanted to point that out. You can do that by motion. You can just amend this ordinance before you adopt it, if that's something you want to consider. And the other thing I guess I would call to your attention is you can see there's a blank for the application deadline or the submission of the affidavit. I wasn't sure when, how you wanted to address that deadline, because the communication I had from Dr. Millsaps was that you wanted an April 1 deadline. You have a May 1 currently, so I didn't know whether you were looking to increase or decrease the window, or just change the time frame when someone could apply. So I've left that open. I would just suggest that the board can, if there's a desire to amend that, the board can just do that by motion as well. And I hope that wasn't too rambling.
And I apologize, I might have misspoken on that. So I think, Steve, the board's thought at the time is move to whatever the state timeline is. And at the time, I'm not sure that I had the right one, but I believe that was their intention to ask you to just draft that. So my apologies, and maybe you can clarify that.
Okay, I'm not sure state timeline for filing income tax, or
I believe if we're talking about the same thing, this was the date that by which, the period of time that people had to apply was what when we had the discussion at the last meeting. And so that's
just wanted to track the statute.
Yeah, to reflect the statute about the appropriate timeline for people to be able to apply for the relief.
Yeah, I thought that we had had our Commissioner of the Revenue was April 1st. That's kind of what I'm remembering. Hold on, Lisa Baker's coming to the mic.
Hi, Steve. The ordinance that we adopted actually stated from January the 1st to May the 1st. If we can change it from January the 1st to April 1st per the Code of Virginia, that's section 58.1, 3506.5, the application part.
Does that make it a little more seamless for all of your offices?
Yes.
That's correct. That's what I remembered.
Due to posting the real estate book, we've got to post it by the end of April.
Right.
To have it legally posted by May
We
the
have a
1st.
little conflict because this says that the Commissioner of Revenue may accept the per such affidavit on or before May 31st.
So I couldn't hear what the commissioner was saying because the phone, she's speaking through the microphone, I believe, and the telephone's not picking that up. But I guess I would just,
Hold on, Steve.
okay.
Maybe she needs to see that and see.
All right, hold on. Joe's going to read it.
The part she gave us was such affidavit or certification shall be filed after January 1st of each year, but before April 1st, or such later date as may be fixed by the ordinance. Such ordinance may include a procedure for late filing by first-time applicants or for hardship cases.
Okay, yeah,
And so what I was saying to you, Lisa, is if, to make it a bit more seamless, if you get it April 1st, it gets into the tax rolls more efficiently. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. So that's where the April 1st came from.
Because originally in the ordinance, it states May. So I
Right.
wanted to go back to April 1st.
okay.
But there is room for exceptions later on
Correct.
under that guideline.
Yeah, we
Right.
can, if the book's already posted, we can do an abatement, which would be take away what was eligible.
Right.
Okay, so the ordinance that the county had previously adopted enlarged that period consistent with the language that Chairman Truman just read. But you can certainly bring that back to the default of April 1st. And I would just say, if that's the desire of the board, you just add that by motion to fill in that blank with April 1st of each year instead of May 1st of each year.
Yes, I think it's,
That'll work.
and I'm seeing the commissioner nodding too, so. So that we're all on the same page. So we're gonna do April 1st on that.
And then that we can also increase the income of a relative. So if an elderly relative, as I understand, if an elderly relative lives with you and they're receiving Social Security, we can deduct, no?
It's not elderly, it says each relative.
Oh, each relative, right. It may not be an elderly relative. Gotcha.
I don't count myself as elderly yet.
Right.
I'm getting there,
Right, I got you.
but.
You
No, it's
just
each
old.
relative.
If we all live with Jerry,
Right, if we all lived with Jerry,
we can, the first X amount will be
of the income.
excluded.
Right.
What, how far does this 6,000 go back to what year?
Ain't no telling.
When did we do this? From the beginning, which was, do you have, what, do we have a date on
I don't
this?
know that number's ever been changed, has it?
No.
Ever. I
Yeah.
don't think so, so that's going way back.
Yeah,
Since Noah's grandma come live with him.
2002, maybe?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So,
I think it needs to be increased. I do too. Now, we were debating over here, but
Jerry and I have been negotiating about that, income, and I think we've agreed on 13,000.
that was the middle ground between the two of us. Now, everybody else can jump in.
Right.
but
yeah, I was gonna just add 10 to it,
Okay,
Just 6,000.
16.
16, there you go. That's less than $1,000 a month. Well,
Right.
Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah.
That's for the 6,000.
It's not a whole lot.
Okay.
I can live with it. That's,
Yep, I'm okay with
I'd be
16.
willing to move, but I don't know about y'all. What do y'all think? Is that too high, a little too high, or? It doesn't take much to hit that threshold.
No.
Anyway. To exceed it.
But if somebody's caring for a relative, they should not be penalized because that relative is receiving
Correct.
X amount of dollars, so,
For their social security or whatever.
or their social
Correct.
security or whatever.
Correct.
Yeah, I'm sticking to 16.
All right. And there was also discussion, just to put this
If I
out.
could,
Sure, go ahead, Steve.
I'm sorry. I just wanted to clarify something. If you look at 58.1, 3212, sub 2, it does provide for excluding owners' relatives who live in the dwelling and providing bona fide caregiving services. So if I'm a family member of an elderly and disabled person and I work outside the home and I'm not providing bona fide caregiving services, my income currently is part of the calculus for the county, except for the $6,000. The case is different if I'm living in the home and I'm the one providing those caregiving services. Bona fide caregiving services should not be counted. So,
We need to make that Do we need
at
to
least,
put bona fide caregiving?
there's no distinction there, I want to just point out.
Should we add that to the ordinance?
It's in the code already.
Okay, so that would be
Elisa.
a Lisa
Lisa's
job.
That'd be under her head.
And I'm not really looking, I mean, I hear that, and I think that's important, but I'm also looking at families that are taking care of perhaps just a number of different situations where money may be coming in, and it's just helping everybody get by, and if that money were the thing that put them over the threshold, it would seem to defeat the purpose of what we're trying to do here.
I'm okay with 16.
We got 16.
16 and April 1.
Would that work, Steve?
I think it would. I guess what you want to do is first have a motion to amend the draft ordinance that was presented to include April 1 as the new deadline and 16,000 as the new income threshold for each relative living in the home.
So moved.
I'll second.
Motion and a second, call the roll before they change their minds.
Okay, and Steve, make sure I do this right. On the motion to amend the ordinance amending section 46-105 and 46-106 to change May 1 to April 1 and 6,000 to 16,000. Mr. Booth?
Yes.
Ms. Bechtold?
Yes.
Ms. Cookenbook?
Yes,
Mr. Cox?
Yes.
Mr. Terman?
Yes.
All right, thank you.
Okay, so now you have an amended ordinance, an amended proposed ordinance before you. And at this time, I think a motion to adopt the ordinance as an emergency ordinance would be in order, with the understanding that when you adopt an emergency ordinance, it's going to function tonight as guidance for moving forward to administer in the future this next tax year. But we would need to advertise and then re-adopt this ordinance after advertisement.
I would make that motion.
I'll second.
Motion and a second.
All right, on the motion to approve the emergency ordinance as related to Again, amending section 46105 and 46106 of the Floyd County Code relating to certain exemptions from taxation of real estate of the elderly and disabled. And again, as ordinance as amended. Ms. Cookenbook,
Yes.
Mr. Cox,
Yes.
Ms. Bechtold,
Yes.
Mr. Booth,
Yes.
and Mr. Terman.
Yes.
All right, that has been approved.
May I?
Wait.
I'd also like to see if we can get this application included in all the tax bills so people can review it in the privacy of their own home before coming down to the courthouse. So they can, I just have the draft. So I'd like that included on a separate piece of paper in the tax bills.
Yeah, great idea. I was going to mention that it would be great to be able to somehow notify folks, and that's an excellent way to do it.
And, well, instead of the tax bill, would you want to put it out with the mailings that go out in March?
That's
I
for,
think you would want it to go with that versus the tax bill.
right, yes. Whatever the easiest, earliest.
Well, if it's a tax bill, it's
Okay.
not come out till October.
Right.
But that comes out in, y'all send them out in March or?
we know personal property
Right.
Yeah,
Well,
that's
this
what
is,
you want to.
but this is not just for personal property, this is for
Only
property
applying to real
tax.
estate.
Right.
Real estate, for real estate.
Too.
advise them to apply for it when January comes up.
Yeah, but the reason I'm saying put
Right.
it in there
Right,
because,
okay.
because the deadline's done passed from the time
Right.
the actual
Right, you're
tax
right.
bill goes out. And hopefully next year we'll have one of those for personal property as
Right.
well.
I would like to make it easy for all of our citizens to see that this is available.
I think that Department of Social Services maybe could be alerted. I think your offices on your websites, both yours and the treasurer. Perhaps this could be posted in the windows, just to let people know that this does exist for our elderly and disabled citizens.
Maybe a little
flyers
story in the
plenty.
Floyd Press.
Yeah, maybe a little story in the
Right,
Floyd Press.
right.
There you go.
Right.
And the Beacon.
And do.
And the Beacon.
You know, it'll hit most people there in March when they.
Right, that's a better idea, yeah.
Yeah.
And then also on this property tax exemption that we've done, there's land not exceeding 1 acre. There was a lot of discussion about increasing that acreage, and for a variety of reasons, we are unable to increase that acreage. So
Right.
we can only exclude that single acre
In the home.
in the
Or
home.
residence.
Right. So we did look into that deeply, and so just to put that out there. Thank you.
Right.
Anything else?
Now the other one. And I guess Steve will have to advertise the ordinance twice and, yeah,
That's correct.
yeah, so.
That's correct. What you've adopted just now will remain in effect for 60 days. So that will get the relief in place and allow you time to advertise and formally adopt it. The next ordinance for your consideration is an ordinance to delay the effective accrual of penalty and interest for personal property taxes that are, of course, due December 5th, but if they're paid not on December 5th, but before February 1st of 2023, they would nevertheless not be subject to penalty and interest. They'd be received as if they were paid on time. And that's effective for 1 year only. And this is, again, proposed as an emergency ordinance that, if adopted, you would need to advertise and adopt formally. The only thing I guess I would also point out is that this is specific to personal property tax, not real property.
Right. Bless you. Right.
Anybody have any questions?
Mine was just answered, didn't it? Paragraph right there.
Yeah, refresh me here. If you're current delinquent, does this still apply?
No,
Right,
It doesn't apply on the past, it
Yeah.
applies just this time.
just this year's.
right.
That's what I was looking for.
Okay.
We had talked about that. But, no relief provided hereunder shall apply to unpaid amounts prior or subsequent tax years, so.
Right.
Yeah, so you're still, if you were delinquent for last year's taxes, this does not provide you with any, relief for those taxes, penalty or interest.
Right.
And when we checked with the treasurer, she felt confident we could pay our bills.
If I might, Mr. Chair, so yes, the treasurer had written back, feeling that, since it had been done before during COVID and had not caused an issue, that based on that experience with our particular taxpayers, that her understanding based on that would be okay. And she did send that back in an email, as y'all requested.
I'm ready.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we approve this emergency ordinance that relieves the penalty and interest through February the 1st. That do what you needed?
I think so.
You were looking at me funny, so.
I was waiting for a second.
I'll second.
Oh, okay. You was like, yeah.
Sorry. All right, all right, Mr. Chair. All right, so on the motion to approve the emergency ordinance to establish a different accrual date for penalty and interest on the 2022 personal property taxes due on December 5th, 2022. Mr. Booth?
Yes.
Ms. Cookenbook?
Yes.
Ms. Bechtold?
Yes.
Mr. Cox?
Yes.
And Mr. Terman?
Yes.
All right, thank you. That emergency ordinance has been approved, and just, I guess, a reminder to us as staff that we will still, need, like the other one, need to advertise this twice and all those kind of things, but this allows it to come into action immediately, so thank you.
Steve, I think Jerry's got a question for
I
you.
just want to emphasize that our desire is to also create a disabled and elderly relief for personal property as well. Just need to put that on the radar. And, if you get it to us before Thanksgiving, that'd be nice, but don't let it fall by the wayside if we can.
Will do. Will do.
Hey, I gotta try. I gotta give him a little rough time.
Yeah.
He'd think I didn't like him if I didn't. But
I would be questioning whether I've done something wrong if I didn't get a little abuse.
But, and I've apologized to some of my constituents. I actually thought it already did apply.
Yeah.
And it, found out it didn't. And, it just, that particular application just never came up before.
Yep.
So I think we need to have something on it, and we'll have to look at the guidelines for that very closely. They're gonna have to be a little bit different than they are on the real estate.
Yeah.
So are we done with Steve?
Thank you.
I don't know if we're ever done.
There you go. Have a happy Thanksgiving, Steve, for you and your family.
Yep.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you all so much. And happy Thanksgiving to you all. I hope it's a wonderful, safe, and blessed holiday for you all. Dr. Millsaps, I just wanted to update you. I have reviewed the EMS contract. I will have EMS billing contract. And I will have some proposed edits to you tomorrow. Nothing that's, I think, earth-shattering, but there are a few things we need to tighten up on that.
Fine. Okay, thank you very much, Steve, appreciate it.
And he is doing that before Thanksgiving.
Yeah, thank you so much for your work on that, Steve.
Yeah, we didn't tell you,
Glad to
the
do
real-
so, absolutely.
we didn't tell you the real reason he's not here in person is because we have way too much of our work stacked up in front of his door, he can't get out.
Happy Thanksgiving, Steve.
Thank you. Happy Thanksgiving to you all too.
You're welcome.
Yeah, let me get back to the agenda. I don't know what else we got here.
Let's see. So I think you, Ms. Chair, are to 9B, monthly utility and liability disbursement list.
All right, ready?
These are the ones we talked about, how going ahead and authorizing payment ahead of time.
Yes.
I don't see anything that jumps out that I would not want to pay on. But a lot of these are just on their own and we don't have control over anyway. Well, some of it.
Yeah, it'd be easier on staff too.
Yep.
Yeah, and if I might, Ms. Chair, I think, as I recall, the idea here is, of course, you would still obviously get the listing and be aware of the amounts and everything, but we are finding it more and more challenging as more people do all this work electronically with our meeting schedule to be able to get our payments through our process. So that's what helps us with that and making sure everybody can get paid timely.
Well, and all we're doing is authorizing you to go ahead and pay them. If there's a question, they can still withhold it until they get the answer.
What was that?
I just wanted to emphasize.
Yes.
Take a motion to,
I make a motion that we approve allowing staff to, go ahead and pay these monthly utilities and liabilities ahead of our meeting.
I'll second.
motion is second. Any other discussion?
Go ahead, Linda.
No, go
I've
ahead.
just got one question. Anything else that's popped in your mind after you made this list that might ought to be on it?
Not at this time.
Okay. Sorry, go ahead.
Can you clarify what Floyd Community Fitness is?
It's part of a approved direct withdrawal through payroll.
Got it.
It's part of the liability list that comes out when you do payroll. That's an automatic check.
Understood. Okay. Yeah. The other ones I could figure. They seemed quite, yeah, got it. Okay.
It's not gym payments. That's what I thought when I first saw it.
Yeah, that's what I thought too.
Thank you.
All right.
Call roll.
All right, Ms. Chair, on the motion to approve staff to be able to pay the presented list of monthly utilities and liabilities ahead of a scheduled meeting, Mr. Booth,
Yes.
Ms. Bechtel,
Yes.
Ms. Cookenbook,
Yes.
Mr. Cox,
Yes.
and Mr. Turman.
Yes.
All right, thank you. So that has been approved. Mr. Chair, I believe that's the end of your old business. And now we step down to 10A, and if I might, so you have a couple of, the first two are appointments. The first is the reappointment of Marty Holliday to the Board of Economic Development Committee for the 4-year term. Marty currently, as you know, serves on the board, and she would like to continue to serve on the board. And so the action item would be to approve that reappointment.
Take a motion to reappoint.
So moved.
Second.
Motion second. Call roll.
All right. Thank you. On the motion to reappoint Marty Holliday to the Board of Economic Development Committee, the 4-year term, Mr. Cox,
Yes.
Ms. Cookenbook,
Yes.
Ms. Bechtel,
Yes.
Mr. Booth,
Yes.
And Mr. Terman?
Yes.
All right, so that is approved. Thank you all. The next item is also related to the EDA, the Board of Economic Development. And you have in your packet, I believe, a letter of interest from Drake and Thompson. And so this would be to approve that individual for this second position.
I have some questions. Normally, we don't just action item and approve. We normally interview. And I know 2 of our board members were not on this board prior to this, and I think that we should stick with how we've done things, and that would be to interview. You did advertise how many times? Twice, and this was the only letter of interest you got. Well, I think it's important that our other board members have a chance to interview any prospective member, especially for the Economic Development Authority. That's just my thoughts.
That may have been my fault because I forgot that y'all wasn't on it.
Well, that's
And,
okay.
we had interviewed him before, and, he was at the top, and,
But he's our only
yeah,
candidate, right?
right.
At this time.
I defer to, I know that's our normal procedure, but I defer to both of y'all, whether you want to do the interview first or make the appointment and then,
I would like to interview. This is a pretty significant position in the county on that EDA that influences a lot of activity and business development or not development in the county, and I'd like to interview.
Yeah, this is no reflection on the candidate at all.
No, not at all.
Right.
It's mostly out of my learning curve.
Well, being that I wasn't here also, I do know Mr. Thompson. I feel confident in his qualifications. But if there was no other applicants, I don't really know what there is to interview. But if it was ran twice,
Can we extend advertise 2 more times and extend the,
You wouldn't have to, really. We
Okay.
could
Well,
see him
well,
come
I
in
mean,
next time.
okay.
we can just bring him, if he's the only applicant
Right.
and we want to interview him, we'll just bring him in and interview him.
But if somebody wanted to, they could send a letter of interest if they saw this on the TV. Is that correct, or is that application
No,
deadline
it's
closed?
already
Okay,
passed.
okay.
Yeah,
So,
it's closed, they had a
Gotcha.
deadline.
okay.
Which brings up, we're gonna have our day meeting on the regular schedule.
Mhm.
Right. So that would be,
December,
No,
no, the 8th.
yeah, so we can have him come in on the 8th if,
No, it's actually the 13th.
13th, okay, I thought that was a little early, but who am I to question? So if you could just have him drop by on the 13th.
Okay.
and you should have a list of the same questions we asked before. If we're gonna do the interview, do it like we normally do.
Yeah, I think before you asked me to go ahead and come up with questions, so I think I have the ones I did last time. So just to clarify for the record, so we decided to, at this time, not move forward one way or another with the second appointment to the EDA, but go ahead and schedule an interview for December 13th, if possible, at our next meeting, which is the day meeting. Okay.
My 2 cents worth is that I am glad to finally see young people stepping up. Because that's what we need, because, no reflection on the EDA, but a lot of them are retired or whatever, So we finally getting young people that,
Yeah, I thought his letter of interest read well.
I do too. And
It did.
it's looking forward to the future. I mean, it's going to be their future, so. But anyway, we'll get him in. Go ahead, Dr. Sapp.
All right. Mr. Chair, next item is 10C. The Floyd County School Board would like to request a revenue and expenditure appropriation in the amount of $64,576.08 from the Capital Improvement Fund to the FY '23 School Board Budget Transportation category for the purchase and installation of school bus cameras for the entire fleet. And I believe you have some information in your packet from the school system that explains that.
I'm open for a motion.
I guess motion would be to approve the request for $64,576.08 to be appropriated from the Capital Improvement Fund to the FY '23 School Board Budget Transportation category. That do it?
And that,
Do you know if these are new cameras or are these replacing? I thought they had cameras, so are we,
No, not all of them.
not all of them? So would all the school buses get new cameras then?
It reflected where it said fleet. So
That would be the whole
I would
fleet.
assume, but that's how it's read.
Second before motion, I mean, before discussion.
I made the motion.
Okay,
You
we
need
have,
a second?
yeah,
I'll second that. Now we can have
okay, any other discussion?
I would like to know if this includes all of the equipment, recording devices, all the associated costs with putting cameras on the buses. I know it is a huge endeavor. I've been through that process, not with the Floyd County school buses, but with another bus system. And $64,000 seems incredibly low to install cameras on buses. So is this the entire fleet with new cameras, recording systems, recording, offloading at wherever the buses are parked, because there needs to be Wi-Fi and an offloading system to move recorded data? I would like to have more details before we move this money.
So.
How much
get
money
him-
is in that fund?
They're asking
No, I mean,
Oh, I don't
Yeah.
My experience with a much larger bus system, it was millions of dollars. The buses needed to be in a centralized location for at least 8 hours to offload the data onto a central storage system where the videos could be indexed and accessed. And our school buses don't do that.
Yeah, because they sit at home.
Or, yeah,
A lot of them do.
yeah. So I'm not certain that this is,
Unless it's the wiring and that stuff's already there and
Then,
you're just
no.
replacing the cameras, but I don't think every bus has it. I know the new one,
where's the data going?
I don't know about that now.
Email Darren and Dr. Miller tomorrow.
Yep.
yeah, we can do that, and then also potentially, since the next board meeting is the day meeting, suggest they address this issue when they come to the day board meeting. Does that sound like a good option?
She can withdraw her second,
I withdraw my second.
and I'll withdraw the motion then.
Okay. We have him come in on the 13th.
Yep.
See, I didn't have much for y'all to do. You're just filling it out. Thank you.
I think, if I may, Chairman, I think that if there's ever going to be appropriations and disbursements like this, that they be done at our day meetings, so that if we do have questions like this that arises, that they would either be able to come and represent their situation, or at least could be call in on the phone. I think that's important. Just my 2 cents.
I'll second that.
I don't think that's a bad thing.
No.
Not when we're talking about money.
All right, sure. So if we're gonna move that along till the next meeting. The next item on here relates to the regional library's request related to part-time staff hourly rate increase. And of course, there's an increase in the minimum wage rate required in Virginia beginning January 1. It would be slightly less than $1, but the request from the library is to go ahead and move it up to $1. And so that's what this is. And I believe Kim has had some communication with the library if you have any questions about that.
It's just a few cent difference, 10 cent, I think.
And as I understand, this brings parity across,
Correct.
that's the idea, that it brings parity across the system.
I'm open for a motion.
So moved.
I'll second.
Motion second, any other discussion? Call roll.
All right. On the motion from, on behalf of Floyd Montgomery Regional Library to increase the part-time staff hourly rate, $1 per hour, beginning January 1, 2023. Mr. Cox?
Yes.
Ms. Kuchenbuck?
Yes.
Ms. Bechtold?
Yes.
Mr. Booth?
Yes.
And Mr. Terman?
Yes.
All right, so we'll let them know that was approved. And look, you have so little left. This is me. Just a couple of quick updates. And I guess, of course, you heard from Mr. Durbin where we are on the EMS billing situation. Of course, we got one bid, and so we've been in contract negotiations, and so Mr. Durbin has been looking at that contract and obviously has a couple of things to fix. I know Kim and Jenny and Myra have met and started talking through some of the process for that transition. And then Myra and I actually sat down for a while today as well to walk through. And so as you all know, she's retiring at the end of December. So we're trying to move this along as best we can. And of course, she will be leaving us one way or another, although she said she will pick up the phone. But
Yeah, she's been very gracious.
she's been extremely gracious, and I will say, as you all know, they've had some family health issues, and she's still been here very religiously. And it's been really, really very positive how much it's important to her to leave things in a good state, no matter what else is going on. So I wanted to say that. The equipment committee schedule update, I'm not sure I have a really good update because we were working on that, and then I got sick, and now your equipment committee driver is sick,
I think
so.
we got one scheduled for Monday night. right?
Okay. Yeah.
Does anybody know why that rescue thought it wasn't important to respond?
I have no answer to that question
I
at
will
this time.
keep that in mind when they come wanting something,
Okay.
because how do we know what them ambulances look like or what defects they got or whatever if we're not allowed to look at them?
Fair enough.
And I mean, this thing has been running good, we're going around to all of them and looking at everything, and we knew what they really needed. So it really shocked me that they didn't respond and wouldn't cooperate with us this time.
Yeah.
Could we check, and I'm sure he did, but could we make sure that Kevin included Daniel in the emails?
Sure, we
Of course, I
can.
know he's still the captain, right?
Yeah.
He's the head of operations.
Yeah, he's the
Right.
captain of
Right,
operations.
now then there, are, of course, Ian and some other folks, but yes, I know, he was contacted. But Kim
I
has
just had to
the,
ask, just because I feel the same way he does.
You know,
Have skin in the game.
that's the way they got their new stretchers, is because we was able to look at the old ones and see what the drawbacks was. That's the way they got the 12 lead monitors, because they showed us what they could do with it in the, that chest compression machine.
But to not even respond,
Yeah,
Well, and I'll
This-
double check, I'll
this,
triple
um,
check. How's that? Just
The email in our,
since
the
I
email in our
haven't-
correspondence didn't have him on there. It
Let me
had,
double, let me check.
had Dustin, Chad Mills, Darren Marshall, Mark Link, Tony Weddle. That was it.
Yeah, but that's the latest one, given the
Yeah, I
dates.
think
of
these
when
are the
we-
people
when
who
the
responded.
commission-
Yeah, okay, I got you.
Yeah, I'm
Right.
talking about in the original.
See, that's
Double
when-
check, and
that's when they made
I'm
up the
sure he
books.
did, but
Got you.
That's when they made up the books that they gave us,
Right.
you know.
If I find out anything different, I will alert you immediately. Otherwise, assume what we know now is correct. Kim has the dates.
So, November 28th at 5:30 PM to 6:15, it's at Indian Valley Fire Station 4. And at 6:30 PM on that same date, November 28th, from 6:30 to 7:15, Willis Fire Station 2. On December 5th at 5:30 to 6:15, Locust Grove Fire Station 3. December 5th, 6:30 to 7:15, Floyd County EMS Station 1 Rescue. And thirdly, on December 5th, 7:30 to 8:15, Floyd Fire Station 1.
And I was going to suggest that the supervisor in that district be able to go to the station with us. But being there's already 2 board members, we have
Yeah.
a quorum.
Correct.
Right.
That shot my idea, and I thought it'd be good, you know.
well, maybe Dr. Millsaps and Kevin could arrange a meeting
Right.
at the station and go over what we find.
Because I think it's
Same
important
thing
that y'all
Yeah.
see.
Yeah, 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 absolutely.
Y'all see what we see.
Just a suggestion, that way they get to see what we saw, and
And I guess you don't get to see nothing.
No,
because you don't
I
even
already
have
Fire, so you
district-
can be, you can be in any of them.
Yeah, right, I redistricted it right out.
So,
I used to have the rescue squad,
But that has
not no more.
been so good to do. I mean,
Yeah,
it's
absolutely.
really saved us.
Well,
Used to, they come every budget meeting wanting something. But once we started this, we know what they needed and,
Yep.
you know.
Surprises.
And that's the reason we was, been able to get them, these fire trucks, because we know they need them.
right,
Yeah.
and we could get on the schedule and get things, kinda hoping to get it, I still hope eventually to get it where brush trucks aren't all 4 at one time, but to try and get it where we weren't buying 2 or 3 in the same year, because that was hurting like crazy. But, and also it gives us an opportunity to look over the property and the buildings.
Right.
It's not just the inside equipment, it's the whole shooting match.
And we may see something on that building that they've got used to seeing and,
That needs.
yeah, that needs some,
Well, it's just like the drains at Indian Valley, just for instance, and
well, just like some wiring up there at Indian Valley too.
that was exposed that
Yeah.
shouldn't have been. And we had some problems there was some problems at the, volunteer station in Locust Grove, you know, so. I mean, we can't schedule if we don't see, and that,
I'm a visual person,
well,
you know. I want to see what they're talking about and know
I'm
what
very
they're talking about.
disappointed in the volunteers not participating.
Okay.
Are you printing them over?
What are you getting ready to say? You got a printer over there or something?
She just keeps coming up with a handful of that.
I do. That's why I gotta keep talking, so I can keep writing. Then just a couple other quick updates that aren't on here. Of course, you heard about the Parks and Recreation policy. That's sitting with Steve, who's just double checking everything for us. Then also, in terms of, you had asked me to go ahead and post for an additional IT technician. And so that has been listed on Indeed, and at this point, we have 11 applicants. And so we'll start moving through that process as soon as possible. So we were excited about that. So that's a good thing.
Just, you want a reminder, the equipment installation has begun today, so the playground will be closed.
Oh, yeah, that's right, okay, thank you, yeah, thank you.
It's Surprised me to get that many,
Yeah.
or 11.
Yeah. Yeah, so I essentially, it's posted on Indeed, it's also on the website, and it's still obviously open. Essentially, it includes many of the less complex items that were in the original listing for an IT technician. And it also lowered the educational requirements to 2 years, and also made an adjustment in salary to reflect both of those things. So we'll start moving forward on that pretty quickly. What Kim was reminding me about is they're getting ready to put the playground equipment in, and so even though it's really been closed now, it's truly closed. We've had the gate closed up there for a while, but so make sure don't bring any of your kids out to the playground quite yet, because they're getting ready to install everything, but it's pretty exciting out there. Also wanted to let you know, as you know, we put out the RFP related to financial services program, and so we got back 2 responses from that. So we'll be looking at those and reporting back to you in closed session, and probably, I guess, the next meeting would be the plan. And then the only kind of bad thing I have to let you know is when I came back on Monday, Mark said, "Have a seat, boss." And so they're having a lot of challenges with the equipment related to solid waste. We have several of the trucks that are in poor repair, and several other items out there that we're having some challenges with. So I've asked him to kind of give us a more exhaustive list, not just to sit down, but okay, you guys go through and look at where we really are, because we have a lot of, as you all indicated earlier, needs. So that
Is
was,
that an area that maybe this equipment committee need to be expanded into to,
That's what I was just thinking.
that's a really
maybe
good
not this
idea.
time, but in the future?
That might be an excellent.
Or maybe form its own committee.
Yeah, and of course, that'll play in, if you've seen my board in here of what I hope to get done for you all, is to try to look at what are some alternatives in terms of how we structure solid waste a little bit. And so these kind of costs would potentially play into that.
We have had the discussion about needing to really do a deep dive here on this bias, and I think the bell may be ringing on that. Sounds like.
Yeah, and that's why I wanted to bring it to y'all's attention, because at some point here in the not-so-distant future, we're going to have to make some decisions about some of that equipment and those kind of things. So we will be working on that, but otherwise,
We had a garbage truck sitting up at Buffalo Mountain Road for a couple of days. Was that a major repair, or? I was afraid of that.
Jerry, what's a garbage truck cost?
100.
Depends on what you get on
Yeah,
it.
right.
Your average fire truck's what, $500,000?
Yeah, 400, 450.
So a garbage truck, I'd say anywhere from 350 to 400 easily.
What was that
I think
one
it's
that they
actually.
had gotten that
The
time?
last one we purchased was about $255,000.
That's what I thought.
However, it's because it was invoiced way back when,
Yeah.
and then it was a back order. So we got a
Right.
price that was, back. If we were to do that today, you are accurate. It would
Yeah.
probably be anywhere from $325 to $375, up to $4.
That's all.
Because we have 2 newer ones.
Well, one of the newer one is down.
That would be a good.
Well, that's
partner for
not
that committee. For a committee.
We have a newer truck and it's down.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah.
So they've taken it back to who sold it to us and trying to work through some of that. It's working not great. But in addition to that, there's also some needs related to lighting and those kind of things, which I've pushed them off because of some of these other things. But if we were to have really adequate lighting out there,
We need to have the lighting for safety for our employees, if nothing else.
yeah, and looking at that, at a minimum, that's at $12,000. So, with that joyous noise, everyone have a wonderful
That's a
Thanksgiving.
good, Good way to end it.
Sorry. I was trying to think if I had anything else positive. I get to see my grandson this weekend. How's that? That's my good thing.
There you go.
I hope you feel better.
Wondering about him the other day, but, before Jerry gets started. So. I just wanted, I meant to do it a while ago in board time, but, at our last jail meeting, they was talking about our per diem, that increase. And so far, they not haven't used too much of it, so, good there because state finally started picking up some of their people. And, but when we first hired her, we was down like 100 officers. And she's got us back up, we're down 80. And we had one class graduating and she was interviewing 6 more. The word's getting out, it's new management. And I've talked to some of the officers over there and I mean, they love her to death and even the major. They say they finally got somebody they can talk to and really concerned about what they were going through. And they actually go back there and work with them, like the other one promised you do, you didn't do. But anyway, all that's looking up, so I'm
Good.
really optimistic now about the jail, so.
Good.
They just said the sheriffs need to step up. We need more people in them beds over there. Go ahead, Fred.
Well, I had two, but I added one to it. Does that
Uh-oh.
mean at the end of the
I
year,
talked
we're
to
gonna
her.
see some of that unused money come back to the county?
I doubt it.
Well, I had to ask. On the playground equipment, just suggestion, maybe we have some kind of dedication or something, little thing to let the people know. You already figured that. My other question, and it's more for information, under the staff report that was presented, I see where Avis had requested that, relief from paying the liquidated damages after October. It says action item. Do you know what the EDA did?
That'll be discussed at their meeting on
The
Monday
next
night
meeting.
in closed
Oh,
session.
okay, that's our next meeting.
Yes. We can update you after.
Right, okay, well, I wasn't sure whether it had already happened or not.
No,
so-
sir, it'll be Monday night.
Okay, that's all I had, sir.
Anybody else?
Happy Thanksgiving.
Yep,
There you
happy
go.
Thanksgiving.
Y'all do.
Absolutely.
I will take a motion
Happy
to adjourn.
Thanksgiving, everyone.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Motion and second, call the roll.
Okay, on the motion to adjourn, Ms. Bechtold,
Yes.
Mr. Cox,
Yes.
Ms. Cookenbook,
Yes.